A few months ago, my family and I moved into a cozy two-story colonial. The neighborhood was perfect, dogwoods blooming, laughter filling the air. After everything we'd gone through, I thought it was our fresh start. One evening, I was grading papers. It was quiet, just the soft glow of the lamp beside me. Then I heard something from the backyard. At first, I brushed it off. Just the wind, I told myself. But it stuck with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was right. A week later, I noticed my daughter's favorite stuffed toy was in a different spot. I thought maybe she'd moved it, but that uneasy feeling in my gut lingered. I began to hear scratching noises coming from the attic at night. The first time it happened, I stayed awake, thinking it was a squirrel. But it felt different, almost sinister. I couldn't confront it. It just made my anxiety worse. My wife dismissed my worries. "You're just imagining things," she said. Maybe she was right. One weekend night, I decided to investigate. I took a deep breath and grabbed a flashlight. Climbing the stairs felt heavy. The attic air was stale and cold. I moved slowly. The light revealed nothing but old boxes and dust. But the feeling of being watched crawled over me. It put me on edge. I went back downstairs, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. Then it happened. One night, I saw him. A figure standing just beyond the tree line in the backyard. He was gaunt, his outline distorted by the dim light. I stood frozen, my breath catching in my throat. I wanted to call out, but the words wouldn't come. I blinked, and he was gone. Panic shot through me. I ran to my wife, but she found nothing. "You need to let it go," she said. "It's nothing." But I knew what I saw. In the days that followed, every creak of the house made my heart race. I felt like a puppet on a string, danced by my own fears. That I installed a security system, hoping it would help. But the feeling didn't fade. I thought I saw the same figure again, just a glimpse, but maybe it was just a trick of the light. I couldn't tell anymore. Then, one night, I was in the living room when I heard footsteps in the hall. My heart raced as I rushed to check. There was no one. No sign of my wife or the kids. Chills ran up my spine. I felt so alone. I was scared, and yet I couldn't find the courage to call out. I wondered if I was losing it. Was I truly alone in the house? I couldn't shake that feeling, like someone was still lingering. I wanted answers, but I was terrified to find out what was real. As I stood there, a shadow flickered past the window. My hands shook. I took a deep breath and whispered, "Hello." The silence swallowed my words, leaving me unsettled. The next morning, I stumbled through my routine, my mind still racing from the night before. I poured a cup of coffee, my hands shaking slightly. I glanced outside. The backyard was empty, no sign of the figure, just a few birds pecking at the grass. Still, the unease clung to me like a heavy fog. That I decided to see if my neighbors had experienced anything strange. I walked across the street to meet the Johnsons, an older couple with a welcoming smile. As we chatted, I carefully steered the conversation towards the neighborhood atmosphere. "Have you noticed anything odd? Maybe at night?" Mrs. Johnson looked at me for a moment, a shadow passing over her face. "Well, there have been whispers about some strange happenings in the area. Some folks say they've seen things they can't explain." Her words sent a chill down my spine. "Like what?" I asked, my heart racing. She hesitated, glancing at her husband. He shrugged, but she continued. "Just figures in the dark, moving through the trees. Nothing that was ever proven, of course." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Were there others like me? "There's a history to this neighborhood," she added, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Old houses, old secrets." On my walk home, I scrutinized every shadow. My palms felt sweaty against the cool mug, the idea of being watched creeping back into my mind. I needed to know more. That evening, I climbed back to the attic, hoping to find anything that would ease my dread. With each step, I felt heavy, as if the house itself was pushing me back. I hesitated at the door, my fingers brushing against the frame before finally pulling it open. The attic was just as I'd left it, dusty and filled with disarray. I flicked on the flashlight, sweeping the beam across old boxes and cobwebs. I wanted to rummage through the clutter, but fear held me back. As I inched toward a cardboard box marked memories, something caught my eye in the corner, a small, wooden chest I hadn't noticed before. My heart raced before I even reached it. Straining against the dust, I pulled it out. The chest was locked, but the intricate carvings on top intrigued me. I tugged at the latch, praying it would yield. That was when I heard it. A soft creak on the stairs below. My breath hitched. I froze, ears straining for any sound. The house was still, but my heart thundered in my chest. Whatever it was no longer outside. It was inside, moving about, probably right underneath me. That I felt a wave of panic wash over me. I had to leave. I shoved the chest back into its corner, my mind racing, the need to escape fueling my steps. As I turned to head for the attic door, I caught a glimpse of something in the reflection of the window. In that moment, I saw the gaunt figure staring back at me, face obscured in shadow. My heart dropped. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. It couldn't be real. I blinked, and it was gone. But the fear settled deeper in my gut that I fled down the stairs, not stopping until I reached the front door. Outside, I took a deep breath, praying for clarity. That's when I heard it again, the unmistakable sound of footsteps, echoing inside the house. Someone was in the house. I stood frozen at the front door, my mind screaming to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I could still hear the soft tread of footsteps above me, weighing the floorboards with each step. Panic clawed at my chest. Were they looking for me? What did they want? I forced myself to breathe, my instincts telling me to find a place to hide. I darted behind a large tree in my front yard, peering back at the house. The shadows were deeper now, filling the windows like dark ink. I waited, listening intently. The footsteps had stopped, but silence was deafening. After a few moments, I ventured back to the house, this time staying low. The front door hung slightly ajar. I pushed it open, careful not to make a sound. The dim light from the hallway didn't offer much reassurance, but I crept inside, heart racing. "Hello?" I called out softly, voice shaky. No response. I didn't expect one. I stepped further in, every nerve in my body on high alert. The living room looked normal, but I felt the oppressive weight of something wrong. I noticed a light flickering in the kitchen. Cautiously, I approached, each step echoing in the stillness, feeling like an intrusion. As I peered around the corner, I saw that the kitchen window was wide open. The curtains billowed gently, as if someone had just slipped through. I glanced back, fighting the urge to bolt back outside. I knew I should call for help, but something pulled me forward. Maybe I would find answers if I looked deeper. That's when I heard it again, a shuffling above me. My stomach dropped. The sound was closer this time, heading toward the stairs. I could either investigate or hide. My fingertips brushed the cool edge of a counter, finding a knife. I gripped it tightly, the chill of steel grounding me. With one last deep breath, I started up the stairs, moving slowly, trying to make no noise. The hall was dimly lit, each door a potential hiding place. I paused outside the attic door. Where had I seen that figure? It felt wrong to go back, but I might find the answers I desperately needed. I reached for the doorknob, twisting it quietly. The door creaked open, revealing the attic shrouded in shadows. It felt different now, more foreboding. The flashlight was still there, just where I'd left it. Gathering courage, I flicked it on, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. What I saw chilled me to the bone. The wooden chest was no longer tucked in the corner. It lay open in the center of the room, its contents scattered. Papers and old photographs spilled out, some fluttering lazily in the draft, then I felt a sudden cold rush behind me. My blood ran cold. Someone was in the attic with me. I turned slowly, the flashlight beam shaking in my hand, praying it was just my imagination. And that's when I saw the door to the attic, the one I hadn't noticed before, slowly beginning to close. It shouldn't have been open at all. My heart raced as realization clawed at me. Whatever was happening, I was not alone, and the danger was coming closer. I felt my breath hitch as I stared at the closing attic door. Panic flooded my veins. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on me. Was it a person slipping away, or was I just losing my mind? With every instinct screaming at me to escape, I couldn't bring myself to look away. The door stopped just shy of closing, revealing a sliver of darkness beyond that. I stepped forward, cautiously pushing the door back. The handle felt cold against my palm, and a shiver ran down my spine. I peeked through the gap, heart pounding. The attic slanted into deeper shadows. I sensed movement, but the space seemed still now. I had to know what was inside. Hello. My voice broke the silence, sounding small and uncertain. A part of me hoped for a response, a sign I wasn't alone. The only answer was the faint creak of the house settling. I summoned all my courage and squeezed through the door, the flashlight beam flickering on the walls. Old wooden beams loomed over me as I stepped further inside. That's when I saw it. A small object lay just beyond my flashlight's reach, something metallic. I knelt down to retrieve it, my heart racing with each breath. As I picked it up, the cold steel gleamed in the light. It was a key, a rusty, ancient-looking key. Before I could process what I had, the atmosphere shifted. I felt it again, that cold rush. This time, it was closer, a whisper that sent chills down my spine. Someone was still here. I glanced around, my body rigid with fear that I needed to get out. Adrenaline surged as I darted toward the stairs, heart pounding in my ears. Yet, just as I reached the top step, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye, a shadow shifting against the far wall. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the confined space. The shadow froze, and I tensed, gripping the knife even tighter. As if sensing my fear, the figure melted into the shadows, and I was left staring into the empty space. My mind raced. What did they want? Did they know I was up here? Suddenly, the stairs creaked behind me, and I turned to see the attic door was no longer ajar. It stood shut, blocking any escape. Panic surged. I pressed my back against the wall, breathing heavily, surveying my surroundings. The only light came from my flashlight, pooling in front of me, casting long shadows. Then, I heard a low whisper. It felt like fingers brushing against my skin. "Help me!" My stomach dropped. A voice, desperate and filled with fear. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make sense of it. "Who are you?" I demanded, though my voice trembled. Silence hung in the air, thick and oppressive. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, pounding harder, as if trying to escape. Then, abruptly, the flashlight flickered. The beam faltered before plunging me into darkness. My breath echoed around me, and dread filled my mind. I fumbled in the dark, pressing the button repeatedly. Nothing happened. Caught in the pitch black, I knew I wasn't alone. Something was here with me, and I had to find a way out before it found me first. The darkness wrapped around me like a thick blanket, smothering any sense of safety. I could hear my own breath, fast and shallow. I felt small and exposed in the vast emptiness of the attic. I strained to hear anything, but all I caught was the steady thump of my heart. I remembered the key. The cold steel felt like a lifeline in the chaos. With trembling fingers, I fished it out from my pocket, the rusted surface prickling my skin. I had no idea what it unlocked, but it felt important, as if it held secrets that could lead me out of this nightmare. Suddenly, I heard it again. "Help me!" The voice was closer now, the desperation in it sending a jolt of fear through me. My instinct was to run, but something rooted me in place. I wanted to find out who was speaking, to understand what was happening. I took a deep breath and called out into the void, "What do you want?" For a moment, silence enveloped me before the whisper returned, stronger this time. "Unlock it." "Unlock what?" The key felt heavier in my hand. I glanced around, trying to catch a glimpse of a door or something that might require it. My flashlight flickered weakly, and I cursed under my breath. I needed light. With the key clutched tightly, I took cautious steps deeper into the attic. The air was thick with dust, and my footsteps crunched softly against the wooden floor. Shadows danced around me, and I fought the urge to dart back to the staircase. This felt like an exploration, but what was I really searching for? Then, I spotted a small, leather trunk tucked into the corner behind a stack of old boxes. The latch was rusty, identical to the key I held. My pulse quickened as I approached. This was it. This was the it I needed to unlock. That I knelt down beside the trunk, wiping away the layers of dust. Forcing my hands to steady, I inserted the key into the lock. It resisted at first, but then gave way with a soft click. I hesitated, fear and anticipation battling in my mind. What had I just unleashed? I pulled the lid open. Inside the trunk lay a few objects wrapped in tattered cloth. I pulled back the fabric, and my stomach dropped. Old photographs stared back at me, images of people I didn't recognize but felt oddly familiar. One photograph showed a woman standing in front of what looked like my house, smiling broadly. A shiver crawled up my spine. Was she connected to this place? How was she involved? I glanced around, that whisper still echoing in my ears. Then, the whisper morphed into something darker, more frantic. "You have to find me." Before I could digest that chilling revelation, I heard a loud crack, startling me. The attic door burst open, light spilling into the dark space, revealing the figure from earlier. My breath stopped cold as I stared into the depths of their shadowed face, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. "Get away!" I shouted, scrambling backward. But it wasn't just my heart pounding now. It was something else, something louder, inching closer. I could feel it creeping into the room, filling the void with dread. There was no escaping it now. I pressed my back against the wall, my palms clammy with fear. The figure advanced slowly, their movements almost gliding as if they were not bound by the same laws of nature. Panic surged within me like a tidal wave, but I struggled to remain still. What did they want? "Who are you?" I croaked, the question barely escaping my lips. The light flickered behind them, casting an eerie glow that turned the figure's face into an abstract of shadows and contours. "Help me," the voice came again, but this time it sounded distant, like an echo from a forgotten place. I blinked, willing my eyes to adjust. Suddenly, I noticed something glinting in the figure's hand, a mirror. Its surface was cracked, its edges jagged like broken glass. My heartbeat quickened. The woman in the photograph suddenly came to mind. The mirror must have belonged to her. But why was it here? I needed to figure it out, yet every instinct screamed at me to run, but before I could process my next move, the figure lunged forward. Time slowed as I turned and bolted toward the stairway. I nearly tripped over a stack of old crates, my heart hammering in my chest as I stumbled past. The whispers surged around me, now a cacophony of desperate pleas. "You have to find me," mingled with "Don't go." I burst into the hall, slamming the attic door shut behind me. The echo of the voice faded slightly, but I could still feel its weight pressing down on me. I leaned against the door, panting, forcing myself to breathe. Was that really happening? Had I imagined it all? With shaky hands, I fished out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam illuminated the dust motes swirling in the air and cast a weak glow in the hallway. I needed to recalibrate, find my bearings. I thought about the trunk. The photos. That mysterious woman. Whoever she was, she clearly wanted something, a connection, an understanding. A part of me felt compelled to return, to dive deeper into whatever dark history surrounded our home. I glanced over my shoulder at the attic door, hesitant. Then I spotted something unusual on the floor just outside. A piece of paper, torn and slightly crumpled, lay near the wall. As I bent down to pick it up, chills rushed through me. It was a faded drawing, uncomfortable yet oddly familiar. The same woman from the photograph, standing before a house that looked eerily like mine, but this time she was pointing at something just off the page. Her expression was somber, her mouth moving as if caught in a silent scream. I could almost hear her plea. "Who are you?" I whispered to the drawing as if it could answer me. Then, before I could gather my thoughts, an unsettling noise rang out. The sound of locks clicking one by one. My stomach dropped. I turned to see the attic door slowly creaking open behind me, the dark silhouette beginning to emerge once more. That I realized then whatever I had uncovered wasn't finished with me yet. I had done something unforgivable, and now it wanted me to pay. I stood frozen, heart racing as the attic door inched open wider. The void on the other side seemed to breathe, an expanse of shadows waiting to swallow me whole. My mind raced with thoughts of what might happen next. Would the figure come for me again? I didn't have the slightest inkling of how to face whatever lay behind that door. That I took a deep breath and stepped farther down the hallway. I needed to gather my thoughts, to process what had just occurred. The drawing felt like a warning, but a part of me was still drawn to the attic. Maybe it held the answers I desperately sought. I glanced at the sketch again, my fingers trembling as I traced the outline of the woman's face. That I heard an unsettling creak from the attic. The echo reverberated through the silence, reminding me of the presence still lingering just a few steps away. Panic gripped my throat like a vice. "No," I whispered to myself. I turned on my heels and hurried toward the stairs, determined to find the trunk again. Perhaps there was something in it that could clarify who she was or why she wanted my help. As I descended the stairs, each step felt heavier. I pushed through the living room door, eager to reach the safety of familiarity. The warm sunlight streaming in through the windows contrasted sharply with the chilling encounter I'd just fled. My gaze fell on the trunk in the corner, a dusty monument to the past. That I knelt beside it, the wood cool against my hands as I fumbled with the latch. The familiar smell of aged paper wafted up as I opened it. Inside lay the scattered contents, old photos, letters tied together with fraying string, and a small silver box that caught my eye. I hadn't noticed it before. Curiosity piqued, I carefully lifted the box from its resting place. It seemed out of place, glimmering even in the dim light of the room. I examined it closely, the lid intricately decorated with swirling patterns. It felt heavy, almost charged with energy, as though it held secrets begging to be released. With a swift motion, I pushed the lid open. A rush of air escaped, as if the box had been holding its breath. Inside, lay an assortment of small trinkets, a delicate necklace, small charms, and a note. I unfolded the paper, my heart racing as I read the hastily scrawled message. "Keep it close. She will come for what's hers." The sentence hit me like a punch to the gut. Was this about the woman in the photograph? Did she once own these things? I felt the prickle of dread creep back up my spine. Then, everything went cold. In the reflection of the silver box, I caught a glimpse of movement behind me. My breath caught in my throat as I turned, realizing I was no longer alone. A shadow stood in the doorway, watching me. I was still holding the note, my mind struggling to comprehend what it meant and who was here. The presence I'd evaded earlier had returned, and it was closer than before. I needed to discern friend from foe, but first, I had to survive the next moments. I blinked, my heart pounding in my ears. The shadow loomed larger in the doorway, its features indistinguishable. I felt trapped, caught between the history of this old house and the terror of the unknown. I instinctively clutched the note tighter, fearing that somehow its contents triggered whatever was unfolding. "Who are you?" I croaked, trying to sound braver than I felt. The shadow didn't respond. Instead, it stepped closer, the light casting flickering shapes against the walls. That's when I noticed something on the floor glimmering. A small charm from the silver box had slipped through my fingers, rolling toward the figure. Panic surged as I realized one of the charms was an exact match to what the woman wore in the sketch, an old locket, intricately engraved. Suddenly, the figure halted, their breath soft but audible. I could barely see their eyes, but I sensed them locked onto me. "You shouldn't have," they whispered, their voice shaking. It wasn't harsh, but it was cold, an echo of fear and anger mixed together. "What do you mean?" I stammered, backing away. My leg struck the trunk, sending more objects tumbling to the ground. A photograph slipped out, face down. I hardly noticed, my focus fixed on the figure. "Give it back," the shadow said, moving forward with exaggerated caution, like it didn't want to startle me further. "You've taken something that isn't yours." I felt a chill grip my heart. I had only touched the box and its contents. I glanced back at the silver box. Had I disturbed something I shouldn't have? Had my earlier instincts put me in grave danger? As if reading my thoughts, the figure gestured toward the locket on the floor. Glancing at it, I felt an inexplicable pull. I reached for it hesitantly, before stopping. "Who are you?" I asked again, desperation creeping into my voice. In a moment of clarity, the figure softened. "I'm not your enemy." "Not yet," they replied, their tone steadying, yet filled with a weight of caution. "I don't want to hurt you. But you need to put everything back." With every second, my mind raced through the possibilities of who this person could be. Were they a past resident tied to the items? A guardian? "What do you mean put everything back?" But all I received in response was silence. The shadow remained still, an entity lost in time. I felt the urgency of the moment rising, a pressure I couldn't ignore. In that split-second pause, I made a decision. I had to act quickly. I grabbed the locket and held it out to the figure, watching carefully, hoping for a sign of understanding. "I don't want any trouble. I just need answers," I pleaded. That's when the air shifted. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Panic ignited within me. Someone else must have entered the house, drawn by the disturbance, or worse, the presence in the attic could be near again. I had to figure out who this figure was before I lost everything. Everything went black. I felt my heart race uncontrollably as I struggled to process the sudden change. That cold presence, which had seemed so tangible just moments before, now felt even more threatening in the pitch black. I held the locket close, a tiny flicker of silver in my palm. "Stay where you are," I shouted into the darkness, my voice trembling. I didn't even know if the figure had been capable of hearing me. I felt utterly alone, the weight of history pressing down as if the house itself were breathing. As I stood there, trying to calm my breathing, I heard a soft rustle to my right. Just beyond the threshold of the doorway, shadows shifted. My instincts screamed for me to run, but I stayed rooted to the spot. I couldn't flee. Not yet. "Please," I tried again, holding the locket out in front of me like an offering. "I want to help." I strained to hear any response. Silence filled the space, heavy and unnatural. Then, the lights flickered back on, casting pale illumination across the room. In the sudden light, I saw the figure was closer, just outside the doorway. I took a step back, my heart pounding. Their face remained hidden, shrouded in shadow, but I caught a glimpse of a glint in their eyes, something like desperation mixed with anger. Without thinking, I dropped the locket. It clinked as it struck the floor, echoing around the room. "Just take it. I don't want to be here." I didn't mean to disturb anything. I raised my hands to show I was unarmed, my voice cracking with urgency. The figure stepped forward, slowly. "You don't understand," they breathed, their voice weaving through the tension. "It's not about what you've taken. It's about what you've awakened." I winced at their words. Awakened? My thoughts swirled. What had I unleashed by prying into the past? What was that presence in the attic? "What do you mean?" I asked again, my voice shaky. They hesitated, the tension crackling between us. You need to leave now. The urgency in their tone struck a chord of clarity. But where could I go? The house felt like it was closing in on me. No. Tell me what is happening. Suddenly, a loud noise resonated from above, the thud of something heavy. Instinctively, we both turned toward the attic. The figure's face disappeared into darkness, and I felt a surge of feelings: fear, dread, a frantic need to understand. I can't let you, they started, but quickly cut off, looking toward the source of the noise. The moment hung heavy as the walls appeared to pulse with anticipation. Stay back. I shouted as I stepped toward the staircase, my curiosity and fear clawing at me. I had to know what was up there, what I had possibly stirred awake. Then, with a sudden rush of instinct, I dashed for the door. I could hear the figure behind me, but I didn't stop to look. I didn't need to. I had a new threat to face. I had to confront the source of that noise, or it would haunt me forever. As I raced toward the staircase, I heard a whispered warning behind me. You're making a mistake. It's not what you think. Their plea echoed in my mind, but I was already halfway up, bracing myself for whatever waited in the dark above. I rushed up the attic stairs, heart pounding like a drum as I gripped the banister. The heavy thuds above me echoed ominously, each step a countdown to whatever awaited me. I hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the figure still lurking in the shadows below, shadowed eyes pleading for me to stop. But I felt an unwavering pull toward the truth, a desperate need to confront the source of my fear. As I reached the top, the creaking floorboards groaned beneath me. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic beams of light across the attic's walls. The place felt alive, as if every shadow and crack denied the existence of safety. An icy draft raced through the room, carrying with it a low whisper that pierced my thoughts, echoing in a language I couldn't comprehend. Help me find me. It was a chorus that layered over itself, deepening my dread. With every instinct urging me to back down, I steeled myself and stepped further into the room. The chest I had previously encountered lay open, its contents scattered like forgotten memories. My eyes roamed wildly until they landed on the far corner where the attic's dimmest shadows converged. That's when I saw it. A quick movement, something darting just out of my sight, glimpsed through flickering light. My breath caught in my throat. What do you want? I shouted into the darkness, the words echoing back, but nothing answered me except my own racing heart. A noise from the chest snapped my attention back. I moved closer, squinting at the contents. The photographs, torn letters, and old trinkets filled the space. Among them lay the broken mirror, its shards glistening like teeth waiting to bite. I felt as if they held not just remnants of the past but chains binding me to the house, to the shadows. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from behind me, and I turned, ready to flee. But the attic door stood sealed. Something, or someone, blocked it. Panic surged as the whispering grew not just louder but more frantic, a storm of suppressed voices echoing through the room. You opened it, they wailed. You shouldn't have taken it. What had I done? The thudding above me transformed into scratching, like claws raking against wood, and I felt the floor tremble beneath my feet. No, no, I muttered, retreating as the figure from before rushed toward me, shadowed and frantic. You need to leave. It shouted, but I was out of options. My only thought was survival. I could allow the darkness to swallow me whole or confront the chaos. With one desperate movement, I lunged for the mirror. My heart raced as I held it up, the cracked surface reflecting both my panic and terror. I felt a surge of defiance. You don't scare me. But even as the words escaped my lips, I could feel the presence pushing against me, pressing its weight of dread on my chest. Put it down. The figure called again, voice strained with urgency. But there was no time for explanations. Summoning every ounce of strength, I flung the mirror toward the center of the attic. There was a shattering explosion. A whirlwind of shards erupted outward, reflecting fragmented light. The room swirled as air throbbed with a haunting energy. The walls shook, and for a split second, I felt a profound silence swallow the chaos. I stumbled back, shielding my eyes from the shards that danced in the air. When I opened them, I was met with a scene impossible to comprehend. Figures emerged, phantoms caught in the light, swirling memories that filtered through the atmosphere. Glimpses of laughter, sorrow, and longing intertwined like a tapestry of emotions. They drifted, seeking freedom, categorically uninterested in me. Gradually, the echoes receded, the pressure lifted, enveloping me in an unsettling calm. I gazed at the now tattered remains of the mirror. The figure that had warned me stood nearby, feebly illuminated amidst the remnants. Its voice softened. "You didn't understand, we're all connected to this place. You were meant to find us, but you have to let go." My heart sank. I didn't want to be part of their history, I just wanted to escape. The attic door loomed ominously behind the figure, but before I could question my next move, the whispers morphed into one final, lingering plea. "Help us, help her." The room was still, yet I could feel the piercing eyes upon me. I had come face to face with fragments of a past that was never truly mine. And still, unanswered questions loomed like shadows around me. Who were they crying for? How could I help when every instinct screamed to run? I turned, heart racing. I needed to escape. Bolting for the attic door, the presence overshadowed all reason. As I flung the door open, a rush of cold air met me. The outside world felt like safety compared to the suffocating dread inside. That I stumbled down the stairs, heart in my throat, stepping out into the fading light. The whispers faded behind me, but they lingered at the edges of my mind. I couldn't tell if any of it was real or just a figment born from stress, but one thing was clear, I would never feel the same about that house. That I never did go back inside. Sometimes, I catch the whisper of wind weaving through the trees outside, and I think of them. I left them behind, but I wonder if they're still there, roaming between the shadows. And I still think about the woman in the photographs. Who was she, really? What darkness truly resided in that house? And did I truly escape, or did I merely set loose an even larger question? Some mysteries are meant to remain unanswered, I suppose.